right. You're all ready when you guys are. You wanna? Yep.
Yep, there is no phone.
Okay, sorry.
If you are Terry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and call roll when you're ready.
And there's no clock.
It is 6:31.
So you want to call the order?
Yes, please. So for the August 27th meeting of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission, I'd like to call us to order and get a roll call, please.
Member Bonte?
Here.
Member Stone?
Here.
Member Honk?
Here.
Chair Terry? Terry Burton and Vice Chair James Coswell.
Present.
Okay, thank you. So moving to our first item, we've no unfinished business. So we are looking for oral communications from the public for addressing topics not on the agenda. Do we have any members of the public wishing to address us this time on Zoom?
Yes, I have.
No, there was somebody here.
Okay, we'll
Yep.
take the in-person first.
Testing.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we'll go ahead with, start with in-person then.
3 minutes, right?
Yes, 3 minutes.
Hi, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Eugene Cordero. I'm a 18-year resident here in Mountain View. I work at San Jose State in meteorology and climate science. So I'm a climate scientist, care about transportation emissions related to climate change, and am very supportive of bike design infrastructure to make it safer and easier for me and my neighbors in the community to cycle around. I've kind of 3 points to make. The first is, we live in Silicon Valley, the center of innovation. And I look forward to seeing that innovation in our transportation network. So I want to encourage BPAC and I want to encourage staff to kind of dig deeper into developing what I think would be the kind of infrastructure that we'd be proud of, showing our colleagues in Europe and Asia that we can effectively design transportation networks that make people from all ranges feel comfortable cycling. Kind of brings me to my next point. So that's about innovation. Second point is a story about my neighbor, Ronit Bryant, who was a council member and a mayor here in Mountain View. One day, Ronit said to me, Mountain View has always been a bicycle-friendly city, always. And I thought to myself, I wonder if Ronit actually rides a bicycle. Because I've been riding a bicycle in Mountain View for 18 years or more than that. And it doesn't feel like a friendly place to ride. She probably hasn't ridden on Middlefield in an evening or on a weekend when the cars are in the bike lane. She hasn't ridden on Shoreline to go over to Google ever, going over the overpass. She hasn't ridden on Shoreline and El Camino where bike lane ends and you're stuck. So I actually want to invite staff, especially council members and staff, to go riding with us, to see what it feels like to ride a bicycle. And I know some of the staff do, but I don't think they all do, because if they did, they wouldn't design what they've been designing for 2 decades, because that is not a comfortable way to move around. And So the invitations are gonna come to staff. We're gonna ask you to come ride with us so you can see what it feels like. My last point is going back to the innovation. You're gonna be discussing Miramonte today. I would like to see what the initial design plans were from the consultant, because that consultant has a very good reputation of doing good design. And not that Miramonte isn't a huge improvement, because it is. That's a real tough area right now. But I wonder how we got to the plans that we're looking at today. And it didn't seem, at least I couldn't find on the website, any reference to the original designs given by the consultant who got paid 116K. So I'd like to be able to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public in the room would like to make a comment? Item is not on the agenda. Okay, seeing none, can we go to Zoom?
I believe I unmuted you, Henry Whitfield. Are you able to speak? Let's share and see. Hello, are you able to speak? You're muted. Can't hear you.
Hello,
Yes,
Yes.
there it is. Give me 1 second to start my timer. And oops. Please start.
hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do.
We can hear you loud and
Anyway.
clear.
Wave, it's okay.
I'll try
Can you
again.
hear us? Audio is on. Somebody else online.
Yeah, your microphones are working.
There are people online.
Can anybody else online raise a hand if you can hear us, just to confirm? Okay, great. So Henry, it seems to be on your side that you can't hear us.
Hello, Henry, are you still there? Oh, he left.
Okay.
Any other members of the public on Zoom wishing to comment at this point?
No.
Okay, I think we should proceed. Perhaps we can reinsert Mr. Whitfield if he's able to come back and connect correctly, that we can interact with him. But at this point, that includes oral communications from members of the public on non-agenda items. So moving on to item number 4, our consent calendar. Moving on to the next item, which I believe is approval of the minutes.
Is on.
It's on, which is on the consent calendar. So at this point, unless there is a motion to pull an item for the consent calendar, I'd like to go ahead and call for a vote to accept the meeting minutes as submitted.
I am going to pull the minutes, well, it's not precisely the way we do the consent minutes, but I am going to pull the minutes, since there is at least one thing I wanted to correct in them.
Okay. Let's see, what else do we have on the, sorry.
There's the towel, which is,
So the remaining item on the consent calendar is the, what's referred to as Tower of the Work Plan. Are there any motions to pull that item for separate discussion, or can we go ahead and?
I'll make a motion to approve the remainder of the consent calendar, which is the 2025 to 26 BPAC tentative agenda list.
Okay,
second that.
second, so calling for a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Unanimous, thank you.
Right.
Okay, moving back then to the meeting minutes.
First, can we make sure we do public comment on the meeting minutes?
Okay.
Or anything on the consent, I guess.
So, yes. Excuse me. Let's go forward with the meeting minutes. Any public comment in the room or comments on the meeting minutes from the last BPAC meeting?
Nothing online, nothing virtual.
Okay.
Seeing no one in the room, informed that there's no one online, like to go to clarifying questions from committee members about the minutes or comments thereof.
Yeah, it's comments. So on two of the items, the motions appeared correct in the contents and the vote, but the person who moved it in the second was either incorrect or swapped to me. Based on my review, well, it was initially based on the personal notes from the meeting and then from checking the video to make sure that my notes were correct. And based on that, on item 6.1, the motion was seconded by member Bonta, not member Stone. And item 6.2, the minutes say Kuzmo/Stone for the motion, which implies that I made it, but member Stone is the one that made the motion and I seconded it. And since motions are the main thing, I want to make sure I corrected the minutes. I wanted to make sure we called this one out. I don't know if other people want to just go ahead with that correction, or since I realize not everyone will have carefully reviewed the.
I honestly have no recollection.
That's because you were recused.
Well, on one item, but one apparently has seconded, so.
Oh, yeah, yeah. 6 point, I don't remember which one is 6.1 and 6.2.
Okay, so I guess the discussion, or is there a motion to update the minutes as suggested, and or any objections to doing so?
Can you clarify, I'm sorry, for 6.1, you were saying that the motion was by you?
I was not concerned about who had made the motion, which suggests that was correct.
Okay.
Let me go back and.
I just want to make sure I get your comments.
Yeah, so for 6.1, it's that currently it says Kuzmo/Stone, it should say Kuzmo/Bonte. And for 6.2, it currently says Kuzmo/Stone and it should say Stone/Kuzmo. The contents of the motion and the votes were correct.
Thank you for that clarification.
And I guess I'll move that correction. Move that we accept the minutes with that correction.
Is there a second?
I mean, I don't think any of the rest of us remember acting second based on trust.
We'll confirm in the
And Zach
report.
will confirm.
Let's make sure that it is the second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so there is a motion to accept the minutes with the suggested corrections
And staff to verify.
and staff to verify. I think we're ready to call for a vote. All in favor? I guess I should abstain.
Or do we have to abstain on half of the minutes too?
So, motion passes 3-0 with one.
Yeah, I.
4-0.
4-0, excuse me, miscounting.
Yes. Also reviewing that reminded me that it might be good for motions when we read out the vote, we say who made and seconded, because I went and checked the video and I was like, oh, this is really confusing. So.
I'll try to call that out then.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so we are done with the items on the consent calendar and including the minutes now. That does allow us to move forward to our first item, which is our of new business, which is the item 6.1, active transportation collision report. And I believe we have members of the police department here to provide an update.
Hi, thank you for having us. Thank you for inviting me back. I really appreciate that. Brandon forwarded me several inquiries from the committee, and majority of them were related to e-bikes. And so I brought in Officer Hammond with me today, and he is a patrol officer, but he also has a collateral assignment with our bike patrol. And he is very knowledgeable on e-bikes. And so I'm gonna turn this portion of the presentation over to him so he can provide some education on the different types of bikes and municipal codes applicable.
You guys prefer I stay seated here or in the middle? What do you guys?
Whatever you're comfortable.
Oh, okay, I'll
This
stand
is
up.
typical, but you're allowed to stand.
Okay. Hopefully some of you guys will recognize me. I've been with the city since January of 2002. I did 10 years on motors. I've been on the bike team for over 10 years as well. I'm a bicycle instructor. Hopefully you guys have seen me on the trail and around. My primary focus right now is patrol. So I work day shift Monday through Thursday. So if you guys are out and about sometime around then in the trails and around the downtown area, hopefully you'll see me on my bicycle riding around, pretty distinctive. We'll be training 5 more so that we will hopefully have a lot more people wearing this shirt soon. Today's presentation is going to be on e-bikes with the change in technology and the application of electric to just about any device you can think of. It gets very confusing on how does the vehicle code define this device and how is the vehicle code limiting the use of the device. And that changed recently as about 5 years ago, which we'll go in. Can you go to the next slide, please? So when you look at these devices behind me, do you know exactly what the vehicle code calls them? Are they bicycles, e-bicycles, off-highway vehicles? Are they pedestrian, electric scooters? What are they? We're going to define that for you. Next slide, please. So the reason this is important to the police department is because of the extra hazards it poses to the users and the people around them. What we've seen in the studies is that someone on a bicycle versus someone on an e-bike is a lot less likely to be injured. So the e-bike is up to 2.8 times more likely to end up in the hospital on the crashes. And a lot of that is going to be similar to the motorcycle crashes. We're seeing broken bones, internal injuries. Some of these, there's a lot of different factors that come into play, but some of them could be the characteristics of the e-bike. It's heavier. It doesn't handle as well as a traditional bicycle. Also, the people riding them are not as experienced. For instance, the kids may not be obeying all the traffic rules. And they may not know some of the traffic rules. In addition to that, they're wearing poor protective gear. If you think about bicyclists and especially the kids going around that you guys see probably on the trail and downtown, they don't look like the motorcycle gear. Next slide, please. So the vehicle code is going to define, and I'm going to give you just an overview so it's very easy to figure out what an e-bike is. It's got to have pedals. If it doesn't have pedals, it's not going to meet the definition. The second thing is it's going to be limited to 750 watt motor. If the motor's over that, it does not meet the definition. When you get those 2 things qualified, then it goes into 3 different classes. Next. The first class and the second class are very similar to bicycles and where you can use them and how the vehicle code applies. You don't need licenses for them. You, if you're over the age limit, you don't have to wear a helmet. Under the age limit, of course, you still do. And you can use them almost anywhere you can use a regular bicycle. The first class is going to be a pedal assist only, and it's limited to 20 miles an hour. After 20 miles an hour, the electric assist has to be removed from the bicycle. Next. Class 2 is still limited to 20, and it's still limited to the 750 motor, but you can now have a throttle on the bike. This is the only one that's allowed to have a throttle. Next. Class 3 is where everything changes. Class 3, you no longer get a throttle, and you have to, you can go up to 28 miles an hour. And this is one of the biggest reasons for the change. Once you hit this class 3, you're still limited to the same wattage, 750, but now you have to be 16 years or older, and regardless of age, you must wear a bicycle helmet. Next, we're also going to talk about the differences on where you can use these different bicycles. To identify them, the manufacturer is required to have the sticker on it. It has to be that font, and it has to be in a conspicuous spot. It has to say what class it is, what's the top speed, and the wattage. However, these stickers are easily purchased online. Next. These are a cheat sheet here that shows you the different bicycles, the requirements, and the areas you can use them. So if you notice our bicycles on the top for comparison, Anybody can ride it, doesn't matter. If you're under 17, you have to wear a helmet. Our next type 1 and 2 are almost identical to that. The type 3 is where stuff changes. All of a sudden you notice your bike lane's on the right side. You cannot use a type 3 in a class 1 or a class 4 bike lane. We're going to define those for you in a second. And you'll see it's very similar to your moped. Moped also has the same age restriction of 16, and you cannot use them in a type 1 or type 4 bike lane. Next. These are your bike lanes. So if you look up at the top, type 1, that's your Shoreline Trail, your Stevens Creek Trail. It's an off-highway bike lane. Type 2 is very common around here. That's your lines on the roadway, part of the roadway. Type 3 or class 3, we have a couple around the downtown area, and that's where it's marked, but it doesn't have the separated lines on the lane. And a class 4 is the up and coming. That's what you start seeing. This particular picture is right in front of Graham. You're starting to see them down El Camino, and we've got them down California. The main thing there on the type 4 is the barrier. So go back in your minds to our class 3 bicycle. You can't use them in a type 4, and you cannot use them on a type 1, which is your Stevens Creek Trail type. Next. Regulations. So the Stevens Creek Trail says that as long as it's allowed by the vehicle code, you can use these electric devices on the trail. I just told you the limitations for your classes 1, 2, they're okay. 3 is not. And then of course you still have to obey the different types of vehicle code restrictions on that. And you'll see that skateboards were allowed to be on there for a 1-year trial period. I do not see that being updated. Next, please. Threw this in because moped is gas powered unless it's electric. Electric does not require pedals. You have to have an M2 license. You have to have a motorcycle helmet, and that's for comparisons for parents so they can see how similar non-conforming what they think is a class 3 is to a moped. Next. Motor driven cycles, the regulations, of course, now you step up to helmets, M1 licensing, registration, and insurance requirements. Next. Motorized scooters, a lot of people are shocked by this. They're limited to 15 miles per hour. You also have to have a driver's license or a permit. And a lot of people don't realize the vehicle code strictly regulates these. No passengers allowed, and they are not allowed on a sidewalk unless they're crossing the sidewalk. They're not allowed to go straight down the sidewalk. Next. Then you have your electric skateboards, and this is what's interesting. The vehicle code sometimes is different on the devices based on what legislature was in place when they voted this stuff in. You'll see the wattage is now 1,000 watts. So they can be more powerful than an electric bicycle. I don't know why. And they're allowed to go up to 20 miles per hour. Next. Gas-powered ones are still illegal. Next. And these are your personal mobility devices. Shortcut for this is pretty much they're allowed anywhere you can walk. They are strictly regulated 750 watts, which is the same as our e-bikes, and they can only go 12.5 miles an hour. We still have some vehicle code sections that apply. We can still side in front and say speed, reckless, and they still have to yield to pedestrians. Next. This is the quiz portion where I take parents through and kids to see if the bike conforms. On this first one, it appears that it does conform because it's 750 and it has a throttle, but you notice the miles per hour does not, so that's not an e-bike. Next. This one also 750, half twist throttle, 32, clearly does not conform, so it is not an e-bike. Next. 6,000 watt. Remember, our limit's only 750. This bicycle is all over the city. And yet people don't realize the top speed, 50 miles an hour, it has pedals. You think it's an e-bike. That is not an e-bike. So if it's not an e-bike, what is it? It's an off-highway vehicle only, and it's required to have a sticker as such and can only be used off-highway. Next. This one is just to get people thinking. 250, so we're within the wattage, thumb throttle, and miles per hour is only 12. Where all that looks good, but there are no pedals. That is not an e-bike. Next. This one is currently for sale at Walmart. And it has a 1,000 watt motor. Remember, we're only limited to 750, 18 miles an hour, half twist throttle. So clearly the wattage puts it over, and there are no pedals. And you'll see this one out there too. Next. Protective gear, you can see motorcyclists have helmets, they have gloves, they have reinforced gear, ankle protection, and yet most people on e-bikes, even though they're going speeds that would be similar to a motorcycle, are not as well protected. Next. So what can we do about it? As the police department, what we do is we target a couple different levels. Right off the bat, Education. So our school resource officers are assigned to each school and they're doing presentations at the school with a slideshow very similar to this, and they're educating the students to begin with. Then they're going to meet with the parents if we have any violations, and we're also educating staff members of the school of what these devices are and what's in compliance and what is not. Next, we have enforcement that we can do. A couple of different code sections up here that talk about helmets, stop signs, red light. All the vehicle code applies to these vehicles. In addition to the actual requirements, one of the neat things that the police department has is a live at 25. So officers can cite somebody that's under the age of 26 and it does not necessarily show up on their driving record as long as they complete the 11-25 program. Next. We also have Muni codes that we can use for citing. Officers might use the Muni code as opposed to vehicle code to keep the point off of somebody's record. It also might apply to more broad spectrum. This Muni code 19.54 says that all these vehicle codes can be applied. And that's your basic right of ways, your equipment, and all the stuff that's straight out of the vehicle code. Next. These are some more additional Muni codes. 19.55 says you cannot use it in a parking structure. I think our CVS parking structure down the road, that's where we would enforce that. 8.9 F and H are for parks. And they say specifically that you cannot ride on the walkway, trail, or within a city park or facility with those motorcycle, moped, motorized bicycle, motorized scooter, all those type of things. And you notice that your personal mobility devices are okay. H says that it has to be a reasonable speed. So that would be our speeding section. So if something's unsafe, we can use that Muni code for an unsafe speed. Next. Things to remember for us, off-highway vehicle code is 38025. That covers the off-highway vehicles. And under that, they can only cross the highway and they can be pushed on the roadway that cannot be ridden. So when we encounter somebody that has one of these non-conforming, it's not an electric bicycle, it's an electric motorcycle, then they can still push it, but they cannot ride it. And then that also defines what a pedestrian is. Next. And that's the end. I don't know if you guys do a question. Oh, you're going to take the question. That's right.
No.
Yeah.
Can we take questions? Are we allowed?
Is there,
You have one more presentation?
Yeah.
Do you want to do that? And
Sure.
And then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go to the next. Thank you. I think all the inquiries related to e-bikes have been answered, but I'll just read them out loud so everybody knows what was submitted to me through LinkedIn. So the first inquiry is Los Altos recently passed some e-bike regulations driven, I believe, by LAPD. Has MVPD looked at adopting similar ones in Mountain View and also work in conjunction with LAPD to have a uniform set of rules? So in the last few slides of Officer Hammond, you saw all of our municipal codes that have already been in place for our city. I'm not sure when or why Los Altos, what their recent ordinances were that they recently implemented, but we already have that in our city. Second inquiry is part of the Los Altos push on e-bike policing was the growth of dirt e-bikes that are not street legal. Is this something MVPD enforces? And if so, how? Also, that was answered in Officer Hammond's presentation. There are several vehicle code violations as well as municipal code violations that we can cite for. And we also provide education and outreach, especially to the juvenile community. And we do that in coordination with the school district. Question number 3, there is a fair amount of vehicles stopping in the bike lanes on El Camino Real. It looks like it's allowed for certain types of vehicles such as utilities, trash collection, newspaper and delivery. Can MVPD confirm that? Also, does it apply to delivery trucks? If not, where should these essential deliveries occur on El Camino Real? The classification of bike lanes that we have on El Camino are class 2 and class 4. Because of these classifications, it is a no stopping zone, no parking zone, except for designated areas along that route. And just like with e-bikes, we are continually providing education and enforcement along El Camino Real, as well as other areas of the city where we have bike lanes. Businesses are encouraged to arrange their drop-offs and pickups in their private parking lots in the designated areas along the route or along adjacent streets. Next. There. And number 4. I've seen the bike lanes on ECR blocked by very large construction vehicles on Ringstorff. Large development ongoing on the Los Altos side. Are permits required for this type of work? And also time restrictions. Yes, permits are required for any large construction project, and permits are approved by the planning division of the city. Next question was, with the city council having adopted Vision Zero, how could the police department and BPAC work together to change culture, processes, infrastructure to improve public safety and reduce deaths and injuries on the roads? This press release, which I wasn't able to attach it, but whoever submitted it also submitted a link to, I believe, Boulder PD's social media page. And the press release and the social media post showed a strong approach to Vision Zero in Boulder, where PD was taking a leadership role. So Vision Zero is led by the city's transportation team, and to assist in Vision Zero's mission, the police department is continually, I think us being here today is part of that collaboration, collaborating with transportation and with the BPAC to eliminate traffic fatalities and injuries on the roadway. We've provided education through warnings, citations, and outreach throughout the community and with the school district. And we believe that communication and collaboration amongst all the city departments and with this committee is key to accomplishing the goals of Vision Zero. And lastly, please discuss whether the many bicycle, scooter derouting signs placed on each various entrances onto downtown Castro Street have been enforced or will be enforceable. How does a PD feel about seeing bikes and scooters pedal on the middle center of Castro Street and where children and families walk freely? I won't talk about my feelings, but I will tell you what we're doing. PD is currently working with Public Works as well as the city attorney's office to improve signage in the downtown area to include the appropriate violation code. And we have provided education to patrons, businesses downtown. During the work week, Monday through Friday, we have officers assigned specifically to the downtown district, and one of their goals is to provide education to pedestrians as well as bicyclists in the area, and looking for opportunities to educate riders of all types of vehicles. So that is the end. This is my contact information. I left it before. But I do oversee one of our patrol teams as well as our traffic unit. So if you have any questions, you can direct that to me and I will help get the answer if I don't know it.
Thank you. So at this point, we would go to clarifying questions from the committee about the presentation. And I believe there's likely some interest. Want to start, James?
Sure. I guess first I'll touch on something in the e-bike presentation. My impression from what you're saying about both the nature of the existing municipal codes and state laws is that there isn't much additional that for the types of safety issues that you're encountering, there isn't much additional that you think or that would be valuable to enable making the streets safer, specifically around e-bikes or e-bike misuse, and that some of the laws, like from, I know I don't know precisely what happened in Los Altos, but I definitely have seen news stories about various cities in California, like passing laws, which to me, actually, it's not duplicative with the state code. Is it the case that you all don't really think there's much that's needed in Mountain View for additional municipal codes or the such to be able to enforce the state laws? Sorry, that was a long-winded question.
So just so I'm clear on, and I'm understanding clearly your question. You're asking, do we believe that we might need additional municipal codes in addition to the ones we already have?
Yeah. At this time, I mean, I understand the future will change.
Yeah, at this time, I don't. Do you see? I'm gonna say no.
If there was any, it'd be more specific to Mountain View. Overall, the vehicle code's done a very good job of addressing the issue.
Okay, and the other thing I'd be curious about is my impression of this is that a lot of the challenges are people being able to get or who are getting like things that aren't e-bikes online or as you alluded to apparently at Walmart. That's, I presume, not something that the city of Mountain View is going to be doing much about. Is that a accurate impression that that is one of the sources of the problem, and is it accurate that Mountain View is not really going to be doing anything about that directly? At least as far as the PD is concerned, there might be, who knows what the city attorney can do.
I don't think we can restrict sale of devices.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wouldn't have any control over where they buy it or how they acquire.
But that has been an aspect of the problem.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we can do in both our safe routes to school, Vision Zero, and then with the help of PD is the education. Cause I have to, as a parent, I have to imagine there are a lot of parents that don't want to put their kid on something that's as dangerous as being on a motorcycle without a license and without a helmet, because they don't realize that that's the situation. I think if there's anything, maybe you'll start seeing more things when you buy one of those that comes in your little instruction manual of warnings. But I don't think that's something that the city can advocate for at this time.
That's my impression. I'm just making sure that I'm not missing something about what was stated. Okay, this is a question that's a bit specific that I know I submitted through Brandon after the deadline that he provided for you, Officer Holt, and that was on a recent city council meeting. I did hear a crossing guard for Crittenden giving, actually not recent, this was in June. This is my notes of the next time this came up. Crossing guard for Crittenden say that he had seen some safety issues and it sounded like he felt like he hadn't been able to effectively communicate those up to the police department. Do you realize that this may be throwing this on you at the last minute? Do you know anything about that specific thing?
I did see that email come in after the fact, but
Yeah.
I wasn't there. I didn't watch the recording of that specific
Yeah.
city council meeting, but that concern did make it to the PD.
Okay.
And I unfortunately am not privy to his or her original report to the
Yeah.
police, if there was one, or if that was the first time they were bringing it to our attention, but it did make it our way immediately after the city council, and we sent our patrol and our traffic units to monitor that intersection.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make sure that that had made it
Yes,
through
it did.
eventually. And I think, yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Other committee members with questions?
I, yes. It was a little unclear to me. So in class 2, as just the paint kind of bicycle lanes, you can drive a class 3 e-bike, but it was unclear to me, can you also drive a moped, or did I misunderstand what you were saying?
Can you go, is it possible to go back up to the, it was probably the fourth slide. Is the
I guess
one
my
where you
question is,
saw-
what kinds of devices are allowed in a class 2 specifically?
Let's change it. No. Okay. I'll change it. This. Which one?
Wanna keep going, please? Again, it's gonna be a gray chart.
Oh, okay.
That right there. Okay, so specifically, he's requesting information on us to the class 2 bike lane. So we'll go over to class 2 and drop down, and you can see that everything is allowed in that.
Mopeds are allowed in,
They are.
okay, and mopeds
Mhm.
do not have a speed limit.
So yes, and that's exactly the point. The mopeds are gonna have the requirement of, can you go to, I'm sorry, can you go forward to the moped screen? It's gonna be forward a little bit more. It's gonna be a white one on the bottom. Thank you. That one right there. So the mopeds have to have pedals, or obviously if it's electric does not, and it's limited to 30 miles an hour on level ground.
Oh, it is, okay, I missed
Yeah.
that. Okay. But you may not know this, do our bicycle lanes have a different speed limit than the speed limit of the road, or is it the same?
That's a good question. And it depends on what device you're on. So for instance, if you're, the speed limit's not going to be in excess of the road that it is. So for instance, if you're in a 25 zone, you can't do 30.
Okay.
But the exact opposite is also true. If the speed limit, let's say you're going down Shoreline is 35 and you have a type 2 bike lane there, it doesn't mean you can ride a bicycle at 35 in that bike lane. You're still gonna be limited.
Mhm.
And then there's more regulations as to the slow moving vehicles and where they have to ride as well.
Okay, is that in the Muni code or is that in the?
The vehicle
CBC?
code. It's the
Okay,
vehicle code.
Well, that's applying to these bicycles. If you were pedaling at 35, you're okay. It's just for the e-bikes,
Yeah.
yeah.
No
And
assistance.
I should clarify that, all those classes or types of e-bikes, have to remove the assistance at those miles per hour. Doesn't mean that they can't go faster. They can't provide electric assistance over 28.
Assist. Yeah.
okay, so you could like turn off the assist when you're going downhill and.
Usually it's done by the computer and the bike. Yeah, it's
Oh.
required to be done by the bike in order to meet
Sounds
the.
hard to enforce.
Yeah, and it is, you're absolutely right. Yeah,
Okay.
where we see it, that a lot are your other devices, your scooters, and of course the skateboards as well.
But of course, you always have the, like, if they're unsafe, you can cite them for being
Mhm.
unsafe, no matter what the other,
That's correct.
okay. Yeah, I think that's all I had. Thank you. It was very informative.
Sure, so related to the e-bikes, I'm understanding that many of them can be kind of hacked in a
Yes.
way, just like a phone, you can unlock it. And typically to get, higher speed and more power. I mean, I used to ride mopeds as a teen, so I know. But in France, so that's.
Oh, there we go.
He's an example now.
Yes, yes.
You need a helmet even then, and some insurance and registration. So, but anyway, so how do you go about those? I mean, it must be very hard to kind of notice. I mean, or to know. I mean, anything you can do besides education and tell them not to do this, but seems to be uncatchable. Right? So.
You can address that if you'd like.
Yeah.
So the vehicle code also deals with that. It's illegal to change the classification of the bike. You cannot break it, if you will, and then use it on the road. You can do it and use it in a private setting, but you can't put it on a roadway. If you change the setting and it still meets the requirements of another class, then you must relabel it. So we do have those vehicle code sections that we can enforce. You're right, it would be challenging in order to prove that. Just thinking off the top of my head, if I have somebody going uphill not pedaling and I've got them on a laser doing 35, that's pretty easy to figure that one out. I don't care what the sticker on the bike says, because that bike clearly is not in compliance with an e-bike. It's now an off-highway vehicle.
Does it happen or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it absolutely does. But most of the bikes that I've seen aren't the hacked ones. They're sold that way. I'll go straight to the website and you can see all the stats I showed you for each of the bikes on the test portion of the presentation are all right off their website.
Sorry.
And I just had one question about the mopeds. I don't know if you can put the slide back.
Certainly.
This one here. So the one on top is similar to the type of mopeds I was riding, way back when in the days, and those have pedals. I mean, so because that's the name moped, right? Motor, pedal. So the what makes it a moped is really because it's it works with gas versus electric, because at least in Europe, there are some mopeds like this that are electric. But we are still considered as mopeds, so because of the speed and.
Yeah, so the vehicle code, depending on the decade that the technology came into be popular, I guess we would say in the culture, that decade of legislature is the one that addresses it. And so they have to come up with a definition. In this case, the moped definition has changed because now we have a new style of moped. The top section, you can see it says that it's limited to 4 gross brake horsepower, and it can do not more than 30. And then after that, we come up with the electric one, and the electric one says that they don't have to have pedals on it. But it's still limited by the same power. So the vehicle code will change as technology changes. It's usually going to be a little bit behind, and some of the conflicting power requirements as you go across the devices is due to the different decades that the devices came into play. But to answer your question, yes, your traditional moped is gas, and that has to have operable pedals in order to still be called a moped. Otherwise, if they take the pedals off, which is very easy on a moped, it now becomes a motor-driven cycle.
And do you need a registration in California for?
Yeah, so here's our requirements there. You have to have an
Yeah,
M1 or
license
2.
plates and-
You have to have the helmet, and you have to have D&D registration.
You have to have a motorcycle license. That M1 is the license.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mom?
Sorry. I've heard that you guys do education at schools.
Yes.
Okay, how effective are they? I mean, do the kids get any sort of material that they can bring home? So that they, I mean, how effective have they been with education to the kids? So that they know what they're doing? Do you think?
I can answer that one. So we don't have, I don't have statistics with me to really quantify how successful it's been. I think it's just like any other educational campaign we try to do with the kids. We tell them not to use drugs, and some of them do and some of them don't. But to answer your question, we do have brochures that the school has been distributing, the school district has been distributing.
So the parents also get some.
Yes.
Copy.
Yes.
Anything else?
I have one more. Yeah, so I was the one who asked the question about the changes in Los Altos.
Oh, yes.
And my concern there is really because I live in Mountain View, but my area, my neighborhood goes to school in Los Altos. We're part of the Los Altos school district. We go to Los Altos High School, and it worries me every time there is a difference between codes, especially affecting kids, right? Between the two cities, because if I go, we have a lot of kids who go across the borders to go to school or just navigating, and it's I mean, it's really not great if there is one set of enforcements, on one side of the border and another one on the other side. One example I like to quote is that a Springer used to have 2 different speed limits. One on the Los Altos side, it was 25 miles an hour. On Mountain View, it was 35. That was a nightmare. They finally agreed to put it to 30. But that's a type of things where you may have a kid from Mountain View knowing the code and how it's enforced in Mountain View and getting entrapped in a way in Los Altos. So I don't know if you plan to work with Los Altos to do this, because I think it would benefit our kids.
I can actually answer that now. I ask for my next question. So I believe the controversy in Los Altos is, just hearsay, the number of complaints, and it wasn't well documented. What, after education, I believe the city council realized that there are sufficient laws that enforce all of it, which we just heard about. The only thing they were really missing is sidewalk ordinances in Los Altos. Mountain View already has sidewalk ordinances. Bikes are allowed on sidewalks except where prohibited. Mountain View has prohibited them downtown, and I believe Los Altos wants to take a similar approach and will eventually enact and sign for no bikes on sidewalks downtown. So I think as far as electric bikes and mopeds and bicycles, the ordinances are all the same, and they didn't change or modify any of the state or county codes. But that really leads to my question, which is, do we document for the public complaints and enforcement actions on e-bikes in any way?
Currently, no.
Okay.
We can
And
include that on our dashboard that we have available for public view.
yeah, I guess if it seems to be a growing category, maybe that's worth separating and both for complaints and enforcement actions. But my next question was also, how would you like the public to raise which medias or vehicles complaints about e-bikes?
There's a variety of ways that you can report incidents to police. You can do it through the city website. If you submit you can call this a traffic related complaint.
Yes,
Ask Mountain View. That will be directed to me and my unit. Or you can call, if you believe there's an immediate public safety issue, you can call our non-emergency line, which I can tell you the phone number is 650-903-6344 is our non-emergency line. Or if you believe somebody is riding recklessly and it's an emergency, you can also call 911. So a variety of ways. And my contact information was provided as well if it's something that is not urgent. And you can report via email. I'm open to that as well.
Thank you. Yeah, and I guess I asked a question about the boulder, and what I noticed is their template on discussing a serious bicycle or pedestrian traffic collision they seem to have a template that added, the police department's working cooperatively on Vision Zero and such language. Is there, how would, if we wanted to pursue something like that, to have templates for, eventual, assuming there will be one where there's a serious injury or death, highlighting the initiative is how would we, you mentioned collaborate and cooperate to implement something like that.
Yeah, so that post that you sent over was in response to an incident, a traffic incident that Boulder was dealing with. We do issue press releases following a variety of incidents that may happen in our city. But I would say if it's going to be specifically related to Vision Zero, because this is a transportation initiative, that the initial post should come from the transportation division, and it's something that we can collaborate with them on.
I guess what I was saying for police department press releases on high injury corridors like El Camino, Racenorth, et cetera, it would seem that just reminding the public that there is an initiative, the police department's cooperating on it, as Boulder did. I assume the police department issues the press release before. The planning department usually doesn't. How would we work together to accomplish something like that?
Yeah, we have a public information officer that handles all of our social media and all of our press releases. So that's something, if you have some ideas, I'm happy to present them to her and see what we could do. But it would be something that would go through our public information officer.
Yeah, because I thought that was interesting and good, kind of leading. It was the only municipality I've seen that.
Yeah.
And they also seem to be quite educated, and they were sticking to the facts. They weren't calling it an accident because they didn't know it was an accident. They were just presenting what happened at that stage. And I thought that was just a skillful approach. So thanks for the answer. I'll try to follow up with that.
Yeah, and we do, our social media does have several posts on there related to traffic safety. I'm sure if anybody follows, but
Yeah.
give us a follow and
Well, I was
yeah, like and
I was
subscribe.
more interested in the press release because the focus on incidents is when people think about things.
Right.
And so that's, I think the key. Okay. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you for having us.
We're
I'm
good.
sorry, just one more
Oh,
question.
there is another one, okay?
Sorry, this
Oh, that's
is what
okay.
came on my head. Yeah, you said on Castro Street, you guys are doing something on weekdays, right?
Yes.
So now on the weekends, it's not being done, or?
It's not being done.
Okay, because a lot of people.
We've, initially our downtown detail started I think 2 holiday seasons ago, because there was an increase in auto burglaries downtown during the holidays. And so we started this special assignment of having officers patrol during the high peak times that we were seeing crimes being reported. And it evolved into a really successful program, and we've kept it, and we've kept officers downtown during our weekday times.
Okay, so work on the weekend,
I'm sorry.
get more overlap on the weekend.
So weekend seems to be, pretty busy, and I see a lot of kids, a lot of bicycle riding and with little baby kids, and then they go all over the place, so I guess.
Yeah.
something to consider.
Yeah. So on that note, so the resolution that was adopted during the pandemic that prohibited bicycle riding, scooters and all that downtown is actually exempt for children under 10.
So that's part of our cleanup.
Okay, so I think that concludes the clarifying questions on the presentation. We have opportunity for public comment. Are there any members of the public in the room wishing to make comments on this item? Seeing none, going to Zoom.
We have 2 people on Zoom with hands raised. Henry Whitfield, I have unmuted you. Give me one.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I was very impressed. This is much more than I expected. My comments relate more to mixed-use trails, okay? And I have for years bicycled, actually for a time with my wife on Shoreline, on Stevens Creek Trail, which is, a very, very popular, as you know, mixed-use trail. Used to be, you could see families with little kids riding their bikes. And then it just got overrun. I mean, it is completely overrun. I was out there today taking a walk, and because I can't bike right now because I have a torn tendon. But anyway, I mean, I would say at least 50% of the bikes going by, and especially the e-bikes, were in excess of the 15 mile per hour speed limit. So I sent a note to Brian with some good background. It's worth reading, I think, for the police department. I did, I spent the time to put it together. But I think it's there were some really good ideas that, and I really think it's not, you're focusing on education with the kids, which is great, but honestly, it's a lot of the adults. And a lot of the adults, in my experience, have attitude about this. They just think that, we're bikers and don't mess with us. And so it's gotten to the point that there are no more kids on Stevens Creek Trail. My wife will no longer ride. We're putting her bike on next door. And I don't feel safe. It's just gotten really crazy. And there's some simple things you can do. I mean, I think part of the education part with the adults is to highlight their personal liability if they hurt somebody, right? Now, I speak from experience. I was clipped on Stevens Creek from behind because I was on the bridge over Moffett, and there was a couple coming, and I was they were coming my way, and I was going the other way, and this guy couldn't wait, and he flew through, and he clipped my handlebars. I had to be triaged at Stanford. I didn't report the accident, but I wish I did. So I think you need to do radar guns out there, have an officer, and let the word get out that, hey, if you speed, you're going to get a ticket, and do that, at random times for about a month. And I think you'd have the problem solved. But I also think you need to post signs that emphasize the personal liability that these bikers have. Okay. So I appreciate that you're doing enforcement, but I think you need to ramp it up because people don't take this seriously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we have Bruce England who has raised his hand. Bruce?
Hi, you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Bruce England, Wisman Station Drive, and a former member of BPAC myself. And the reason I mention that is a couple comments I had that go back to my days serving on BPAC. So when we were talking about the sidewalk ordinances, it was very difficult. In fact, we had to go through the process twice because we couldn't make our first pass work for others in the city, decision makers. So we had to, do it again. But even what we came up with was difficult because we knew that there were going to be all kinds of new devices. We had what we were looking at the time, it's like 2017 or so, I guess, 2016, 2017. And, we could see the writing on the wall. And yet expecting that people in Mountain View are going to look at the codes and really pay attention to what differentiates one bike from another is asking an awful lot. And also kids will be kids and kids want the exciting adventure. I get that. I rode a moped myself when I was younger. So I don't know what the solution is except for education, working with the kids to help them understand that they could be responsible for a bad accident or an injury or something like that. As we are gearing towards the active transportation plan, we want to encourage more and more people to get out and walk and bike. And as Henry was pointing out a moment ago, people aren't going to do it if they don't feel safe on the roads and on the trails. So anecdotally, I'm seeing a lot more what I consider misuse of such bikes on sidewalks and even around other people. And I guess, again, the education, putting it on enforcement is difficult because then it just puts the police in the position of having to monitor people moving about in the city. I'm sure they don't like to do that, and people don't like to be ticketed or anything like that. So it's, I guess it really comes down to the education. So, there was something else that I wanted to say. Oh, yes, Lorena. So I had an email exchange with you about how people can report on Ask Mountain View about issues related to the police. And I think where we left off was it depends. And you won't necessarily get a response through Ask Mountain View, even though the police department is in there as a category. And I have several instances like that where there are open tickets in the system that aren't being responded to. And I don't think that should be on the people in Mountain View to try to figure out whether Ask Mountain View is going to work for Police Matters or not. We advocates in the community work very hard to get the near miss collisions built into the system, and we really would like all of those tickets to be responded to. Not sure what the solution is there, but I'm just bringing it up with you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have April Webster.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I wanted to comment on a few things. The first was on reporting, and I'm not sure if this was covered because I joined the conversation a little bit late near the end of the presentation. But I'm looking at and I have looked before at the transparency dashboard that's available. And it's hard, there's traffic data and traffic collisions, but it's hard to, I don't see anything specific for bicycling or pedestrian. And those are the people who are usually the most vulnerable on the street, and it would be great to see data broken down at a more granular level to see those types of collisions, and even just the primary, the most primary collision factor. When I'm looking through, there are 4 categories, five categories, which one is unknown and one is undetermined. That you're looking at 3 categories of unsafe speed, wrong side of the roadway, and failure to stop. And at that level of detail, it's really difficult to tease. I've done my whole career has been data analysis. It's really hard to tease apart what's going on, just because you only have the 3 categories. It could be broken down, I think, much more detail. And then also just being able to access spatiotemporal data as well. It's very, very high level at this point. And so making that available, I have pulled, shape files and other data on crime data from other jurisdictions in the past. And it'd be great if we could make that available. I wanted to ask about, or just comment on enforcement as well. I know sometimes what we've done in the past is to do, instead of traffic calming, we put up signs indicating what your current speed is and what the speed limit should be on areas where residents have sort of made a report that people are traveling too fast. But those often don't deter people. People see it and note it, but don't actually do anything about it. It doesn't change behavior. And if you don't pair it with some sort of enforcement, it's really just, it comes down to a waste of taxpayer money because it's not impactful. And so it'd be really great to see something going on there to pair, if you're going to go that route, instead of using something that has been proven through research in the transportation world to be more impactful, like making changes through design to slow people down. If you want to go the route of speed, having those speed signs, you need to pair it with enforcement, I think. And then in terms of reporting things, Bruce brought this up, but the way we can send in input right now, it's not user friendly. You have to go through a number of steps and it makes it challenging. And finally, I just want to talk about ECR and bike lanes. There's been no enforcement really of cars parking the lanes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next we have Deb Henningsen.
Hi
Can you
there.
hear us?
Hi, yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I'm actually here with my husband, and I'm going to make a comment and then he has a question. And so my comment is kind of echoes what Bruce was saying about education for the children and their parents, but really what the dangers that I see every day when I'm biking alongside my daughter or on the Stevens Creek Trail on the way to what I'm doing in the morning. I hate to be ageist about it, but it is high school boys on overpowered e-bikes and they ride in the bike lane and they behave like terrible citizens. And okay, fine, some of that is to be expected from the stereotype of high school boys. But I also think, as Bruce was saying, they just don't know. And I think the presenter mentioned as well, they just don't know what the rules of the road are. And I appreciate that the city has done things like bike rodeos at the middle school to help educate middle schoolers on regular bike safety. But I think now that we see these strong indications of where these e-bike trends and the safety trends related to e-bike use is going, that a coordinated and focused campaign at the high schools, Mountain View High School, Los Altos High School, is really important because I just see all kinds of terrible behaviors every day with kids on these e-bikes passing other kids that are riding regular bikes on the right in the bike lane, and two kids on a bike, no one's wearing on an e-bike, no one's wearing a helmet. Kid on an e-bike towing a kid on a regular bike, none of them are wearing helmets. I mean, I see this every day. So yes, please educate the children and get the schools involved in the same. Thank you. And then over to my husband who had a question.
Yes, hello. My question is going back to electric skateboards on the Stevens Creek Trail. And now that the 1-year test period is over, I couldn't quite tell whether you were saying that skateboards are now allowed or are no longer allowed on the trail. Sorry, electric skateboards. I'd love to hear a bit of a clarification on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And his name is Ben Levitt, just for the record.
Yes.
Thank you. And we have one last speaker, Jesse Cup.
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, so this is Jesse. I think some of you know me. I had a question that maybe the officers there will be able to answer about the on one of the slides there was a question about construction vehicles blocking the bike lanes. And someone said, are permits required? And the answer was like, yes, permits are required. And I'm like, of course permits are required. But do those permits allow them to block the bike lane? That wasn't answered. Because I've seen that on El Camino and reported it, and you have like a big cherry picker or something parked in the bike lane. I'm like, okay, there's a clearly marked sign that says no parking anytime. It doesn't say like, unless you're an Uber or a Lyft or a construction vehicle, it just says no parking. But so should I continue reporting? Because I do run into that a lot. And it would be nice to have maybe a shortcut to report that rather than going through all the Ask Mountain View tree that people tend to not know about or give up on. I think like 1 in 10 times I intend to report something I don't. So I'm like, oh, it's going to be a hassle. That also happens frequently on Middlefield with the and not as bad now, but I've seen it on California and the new protected bike lanes there. I think the people who live in California are getting more used to it, but there's still parking in the striped off areas that are meant to provide a clear line of sight. So that makes me nervous about, getting hit when I'm going across through the protected bike lane and across the curb cut. And if cars can't see me, sometimes they turn in and out very quickly. And that's happened once where I was like almost hit already. So hopefully those will be fixed in the permanent version. And then the PD also mentioned that there's going to be 5 new bike cops, so that's awesome. And I want to ask, will they ride in the protected bike lanes on California and El Camino? Just because it's once the bike lane is closed off like that and you can't easily go out into the through lane to get around obstacles, it becomes even more important to keep the bike lane clear. The obstacles in the bike lane just are more dangerous when it's a protected bike lane. That's what my experience has been. If I see shopping carts, or if there's a car parked there, or Uber or Lyft or Amazon trucks delivering. If I report those, 90% of the time, the car is gone before the cops get there because they're just, stopping for 5 minutes or whatever to do delivery. It's still illegal, but the cops don't catch them. So I want to see those bike cops riding up and down the protected bike lanes and issuing citations as they go. Right, thank you.
No more.
Okay, so concluding public comments on the police department. I think we can be quick and wrap through committee comments. If we could group our comments together, and I'll call on one person at a time and not come back, because that might speed us along a little bit. So I'll go ahead and open while you combine your comments. Couple comments on the questions that were answered. So I believe you do have to have a permit and construction to close a lane. It's usually quicker to go to code enforcement than the police department to have them for if it's an ongoing construction project site to advise the contractor that they need to have proper signage, bike lane closed ahead, bikes may use full lane, etc. I think it's also in some cities, I'm not sure about Mountain View, but certain delivery vehicles can park in the lane of traffic. I know that's what UPS is now doing on El Camino. It seems very effective and keeps the bike lane open. Other vehicles are choosing the bike lane, which is prohibited. So, they're advised to use the private space, the parking lots. But I think certain cities allow delivery vehicles to stop in the lane of traffic at certain conditions. So there are options for not stopping at the bike lane. Yeah, and speaking of e-bikes, so I taught last year. I'm in Atherton High School. We had a staff member killed on their e-bike about 2 days before the end of school. He was also an assistant coach for the freshman football team in that category that is most likely to violate logical e-bike. So I think, they got the message. Unfortunately, it was a very traumatic incident. But getting word out helps. And I know Mid-Penn does use radar guns and does write tickets for e-bikes and lack of helmets. I'm not sure jurisdiction on the police department and covering Stevens Creek Trail. But that would be interesting to see because I know Mid-Penn seems to be fairly effective at controlling speeds on their trails and with e-bikes and mountain bikes. Thank you. Okay, other committee comments?
I can go.
Thank you.
First, just the quick clarification from public comment. So currently are people allowed to use electric skateboards on the Stevens Creek Trail? So I'm not familiar with the exact 1 year pilot or whatever that was mentioned.
I have not been able to find an update.
Right now, in theory, are people not allowed to use electric skateboards on the Stevens Creek Trail?
The verbiage was that they were allowed for a 1 year study period. I have not seen anything.
And that 1 year study period is passed?
I haven't seen anything revoking it. So I don't know. When I went through all the codes, I have nothing updating that.
Okay.
We don't know the start date unless we don't know the end date.
It's fine. Okay, then in general, with regards to the e-bike stuff, I yeah, I think this information sounds like what I expected to hear, which is good and bad. But at least means I wasn't surprised. It's good to hear that you're doing education on this stuff. I do like seeing more people able to get around without a car, which means I like seeing e-bikes, but I also do want to make sure we're not having people basically riding motorcycles about or operating them grossly unsafely. And with that, it sounds like currently enforcement is being focused on people behaving egregiously, which is consistent with what I would hope to hear. I know that like when I was in high school, there was definitely a degree of like, well, I don't want to mistrust like the PD because I'm worried that they're going to start ticketing kids because they roll through a stop sign at 3 miles an hour on a bike. And I don't want people to end up with that attitude towards the police department. But also I want there to be clear enforcement about people like violating things egregiously. That sounds roughly consistent with what's being done now, and I hope that's the direction things continue to go or do go. And on non-e-bike things, I do continue to like the transparency dashboard. I think a bit to April Webster's comments, I do also like if there are good ways for people to query that data sort of programmatically. I don't know that we have that right now. I think when that originally got presented, some of us requested that at some point in the future. Would still love to see that since we do have people who I know would query, members of the public who I know would make use of it. And I think one of the BPAC members brought up having e-bike related information in the transparency dashboard. I think that would be helpful to see so we can get a sense of like, is this something that is a small but noisy issue in terms of number of complaints? Is this something that is everywhere and have some slightly more objective sense than just what we hear anecdotally? Although it would presumably rely a bit on anecdotes. And I will, I think, reiterate some of the comments about cars being parked in the bike lanes on some of these, or to Jesse Cupp's comments about like in illegal spots aren't in the bike lanes, but maybe like blocking sight lines on some of the new bike lanes on El Camino in California. And I know it's always, I mean, it's not the most exciting thing to enforce, I'm sure, but that those do form real safety issues. And so I look forward to, I hope those will be able to be enforced. And I look forward to having more of our police department going around on bicycles. So, and thank you both for giving this update.
Thank you, James. Member Munn.
Sure, I'll try to group everything. So, so on the e-bike, I appreciate the education and so on. I mean, and maybe I'm mistaken, but it seems to me that the education has to do more about how to handle the e-bike than on the rule of the roads type of thing. So, and I think a lot of times, I think kids don't know, they wind up in traffic at a very high speed and they don't know, they don't have a code because they don't have, they're probably not even in age to get their permits, learner's permits or things like this. So my suggestion would be to try to do something like a rule of the road kind of light. I mean, maybe like a city, kind of e-bike riding license or something like this. Like, not an official things, but something that would, get the basics. You stop here. You you cannot impede. You cannot encroach or the type of things that they just don't know. I think there were some comments about Stevens Creek and trail, and I think that's definitely becoming an issue of that it's just for bikes really, and bikes going fast. I mean, I rode it this morning and I was most clipped a few times, and I'm riding for exercise, so I'm not riding very slow necessarily, and people just don't care. And these are not kids. I mean, these are tech bros going to work. So and they just don't show any respect. So that's what it is. And then to my point earlier about Los Altos, I think it's whatever they've done, make sure that you are in sync with what we've done, because we have kids going in between, and and we don't want them to be entrapped into, oh, but MVPD told us it was okay, and you know, and then being hammered there. So, but thanks all for sharing all that information. That was definitely useful. So.
Thank you. Member Stone, any comments?
I guess. Yeah, downloading from the dashboard, I think we've mentioned this before, definitely would be useful. I like to play all the shape files and stuff sometimes. And yeah, in general, yeah, we want more people out on whatever micromobility device happens to just make sure that they're doing it in a safe way. And thanks for what you're doing. That's why.
Yeah, just very quick. I know the education is very important for me too. I think I'm not sure whether you guys do this, but the ordinances, what the ordinances are to the kids when they're, you know, when they're giving them education. And so, you know, even the California Vehicle Code and then the Mountain View Code, you know, what so that they have some sort of like an idea of what they need to follow. And they do. I think Mountain View does have a local bicycle code, right, that they have to follow. And so if the education, probably you guys already do this, but if the education contains that and the brochure also, you know, goes to the parents with that information, I think that would.
Thank you. Okay, I think we've concluded item 6.1. Thank you very much for your attendance. We appreciate the update and look forward to the next one. I did notice a picture of the bicycle.
I changed it just for you.
Do a quick 5-minute, or do you want to keep going? We've got one more item, but it could go long, so I just don't know if you want to do a.
Okay, so let's take a 5-minute adjournment, now being 7:52, so back at 7:58.
Right, I'm gonna stop the recording.
It was my 7 minutes.
Start again.
It was a dry run. Okay. All right.
Apologies.
Sorry about that. We good? Thumbs up.
As you were saying.
Okay. Well, they say it takes 3 times to hear something, so, okay. So quick introductions. Again, my name is Allison Boyer. I am the Assistant Public Works Director for the Transportation and Business Services. I have with me today Ben Pacha, who is our Acting Transportation Manager, and Priyoti Amid, who is our Transportation Planner for the project. All right, and we are here tonight, again, to discuss we are asking BPAC to review and recommend the preferred alternative concept plan for Miramonte Avenue Complete Street Study, Project 2331, from El Camino Real to Castro, Maryland Street, which we refer to as Segment A, to the Council Transportation Committee. Miramonte has been split into 3 segments. We have segment A, B, and C. Currently, segment B is under design and construction is expected to begin shortly. Segments A and C are included in the study we are discussing tonight, and this was funded with 2016 VTA Measure B funds. Okay, go next slide. And then just quickly some background. Last year, we kicked off the study with data collection and outreach round 1. Since then, we have completed preliminary concept design, data analysis, outreach round 2, and have developed a preferred alternative. Today, we are here to receive your feedback on the preferred alternative, and we will be taking this to CTC on Tuesday for their feedback as well. Based on BPAC and CTC's feedback, we will bring the final report to council in fall of 2025 for approval. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Priyoti.
Thank you, everyone. This is Priyoti Ahmed, and I will go through the rest of the presentation. So a little bit of the background for this study. The goal of the study is to improve safety, accessibility, and connectivity and increase active transportation options along this corridor, which supports city's Vision Zero policy, which aims to achieve zero fatal collision by 2030, and city's Safe Routes to School program, since this corridor provides access to St. Joseph, Graham Middle School, and Bub Elementary School. We kicked off the study last fall with outreach round 1 and data collection. For outreach round 1, we conducted bike and walk audit, interactive map survey, and hosted an open house. And through the outreach, we received valuable feedback and improvement ideas for this area. In parallel, we also conducted a thorough data collection, which included traffic counts, speed analysis, traffic collisions, parking counts, and field observation. Based on the data analysis, staff kicked off outreach round 2 during the summer. During this round, staff sought feedback on proposed parking removal, lane reduction from 2 travel lane to 1 travel lane, and bicycle and pedestrian facilities along this corridor. For outreach round 2, we have taken these elements for public feedback. Public outreach events included, we had a citywide survey, pop-ups at nearby schools, and for notification for outreach, we had sent postcards to residents, car flyer, yard sign, light pole flyers, and social media posts. Through the outreach, we heard support for protected bikeways and pedestrian safety features. In the survey that is still open, the result shows over 55% support for the plan, and additional 19% would support more protected bikeway. Of the respondents, there were no or not sure responded that preserving lane would be the reason of not supporting it. One key element of this plan is on-street parking removal proposal, which is based on 7-day data collection over different time around the clock. And this proposed parking removal map was shared for feedback with nearby schools and corridor residents. This map includes 3 yellow circles that you see on the screen where it shows where majority of the parking is removed. As you can see, majority of the parking is removed on the west side of the street, where we found minimal parking demand, and more parking demand was east side due to multifamily homes. The second element of the preferred alternative is travel lane reduction from 2 lane to 1 lane. This proposal is based on low traffic volume, and delay along this corridor. The analysis was done through using Highway Capacity Manual 2000 methodology. Approximately for parking removal feedback, we found that through our survey, approximately 64% of survey respondents supported proposed parking and additional parking removal. Survey respondents also identified additional treatments, which include new and improved pedestrian crossings, traffic calming measures, and increased street tree landscaping and improved street lighting. This plan includes these elements through mid-block crossing with rectangle rapid flashing beacon signs, traffic calming measure through travel lane reduction, and barrier and parking protected bikeway. This plan also reserves space for Green Street for future funding if future funding becomes available. Now to the preferred concept plan. So as you can see, this section goes from El Camino to South of Park Drive, where you can see on the west side of the street is Class 4 barrier protected bikeway, and majority of the east side of the street has parking protected bikeway. We also have mid-block crossing at Park Drive with RRFB and green dash line through the conflict zones. This stretch is from East Park Drive to Trophy Drive. Similar configuration, majority of this area has Class 4 barrier protected bikeway, and the other side has parking protected bikeway with high visibility crossing at Sonia and mid-block crossing with RRFB at Trophy and green dash line through the conflict zones. And the last stretch is from Trophy to Maryland with Class 4 barrier protected bikeway and parking protected bikeway, high visibility crosswalk, and green dash line through the conflict zones. To zoom in a bit more, this one shows the same stretches with specific cross sections. So this one shows 11-foot travel lane where buffer and bike lane would vary as design goes on for this study. Similar to here, this goes from Park Drive to Sonia, and vehicle lane will be 11 feet with buffer and bike lane to vary and will be determined during design phase. The last stretch is from Trophy to Castro, from Rincon to Castro. And this one also shows vehicle lane to be 11 feet and buffer and bike lane to be determined at the design phase. An alternative to consider where we'll be you'll be preserving more parking spaces by keeping the existing bike lane configuration. So the bike lane will be along the curb. So there'll be parking along the curb, bike lane next to it, buffer, and then travel lane. The trade-off here is that this configuration will preserve 8 existing parking spaces compared to the preferred alternative. But it will increase conflict points between drivers and bicyclists. The safer option would be to have it as a parking protected bikeway. And according to FHWA, Federal Highway Administration, protected bikeway will reduce vehicle to bike conflict by 53%, which is shown in the previous slide. So here we are. Today we are receiving your feedback. As Allison mentioned earlier, we will be going to CTC next week. And based on your feedback today and CTC, we'll be bringing the final report to council in fall of this year. And this will be ready for design by end of the year. So the recommendation is review and recommend the preferred alternative concept for Miramonte Avenue complete street study from El Camino to Castro/Maryland Street to City Transportation Committee. All done.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the presentation. So we move next to committee clarifying questions. Would anyone like to kick off with some questions about the presentation?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for answering all the questions that we had asked. Go ahead, and I may go back to one or two, but But my first question is, you mentioned that we have to pick the preferred alternative, but I don't think we've been shown anything but one alternative. So in the packet, so I don't know if you could maybe spend more time on.
So the two alternatives are a parking protected bike lane on that west side or parking along the curb. As a reminder, this project is budgeted as part of our paving projects, right? So the adopted budget for this project is tied to our paving budget. So the scope for this was predominantly a striping and paving project.
So the west side would be the right side on this.
Yes, I'm
picture?
sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
on
just very.
on the right side of, on the
challenged
right
with it.
side of your screen. Yes, that is
Because
correct.
it's always based
Your
on.
northbound
El Camino,
travel.
not, the
Your
Yeah,
geographic
towards
travel.
Graham Middle School, at side of Graham.
Okay. And it would be only from Haspa Drive to Marin Castro, and then it would switch, I guess?
And then it goes, there's not parking,
Yeah, then it
Yeah,
will
there is
switch to
parking.
parking protected.
parking, then it
So-
would
so
switch
you'll
to
have
parking
to-
protected.
Yes.
Yes.
I guess at Sonia or
It will switch back in Harpster. I can pull this one up. So. It's true for your income. Did I go too far? Harpster. Yeah, it will switch between Harpster and Sonia, like along here. So this will remain the same.
okay.
Yeah, so it will pick up going towards Sonia, as you can see.
That's just, there's not parking there. That's just driveway. The space from Hamster to Sonia on going northbound. Or am I turned around now?
They're going this way and
And
then
then
it
the
will
next-
pick
and
up
then it
when
pick-
it is,
Once it's once it is cross Sonia.
Okay.
Yeah,
so along here, it'll be parking protected.
and park.
And then I had another question that's a follow-up from the questions I asked. I had noticed that some streets, that are cross streets essentially of Miramonte, some of them have marked crossings, others don't. And I understand that you showed only the markings of the one that had markings, but it doesn't answer my question, which is why is it that we have marked crosswalks and not marked crosswalks? I mean, in general, it would be nice to be consistent, but that's.
Yeah, so there's specific guidelines for when to mark and unmark a crosswalk, and we'll continue to follow those as we move into
Okay.
design.
I mean, in this case, the streets look exactly the same. I mean, I don't know. I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
Yeah, we have, so the MUTCD has guidance as well as the California Vehicle Code for when to mark a crosswalk. So that will all be followed during the design
Okay.
phase.
So-
I mean, right now, we're following the code as we understand it and as it was designed at the time, and as we move with the traffic
So you're gonna be
engineer who's
reviewing-
stamping and signing the plans, they will.
But part of the plan would be to review this
will,
and
correct.
make it upgrade to the latest plan.
Yes,
or
we will
some
follow,
of it.
yeah,
That's-
we will make sure that all,
From where I see it, I see no reason to,
yes.
no rhyme reason, so. Then I have more questions, but I want to share the fun, so.
Thank you. Questions?
Basically, it's the same, the new one that the one is basically the one on like California.
For the parking protected bike, is that what the question? Yes, it would follow a similar pattern.
The other side would be the barrier protected that you see a little bit on El Camino.
How are you guys gonna say if the council asks you about, I just got an email about someone making a left turn and then that kind of an accident might happen. I mean, and it's possible because if there's a blockage view, or the other side, if the car coming from a driveway from their own house, and then it's so close to the bicycle. I mean, how are you guys gonna explain that? Or just a matter of as time goes on and seeing what to do as the time goes on, or?
Yeah, I mean, some of it is there's medians through Miramonte, so it would be hard to do a left turn. I'm not as familiar with the email you just saw, so I can't speak to that case specifically, but you'll notice that Miramonte has a median that whole way, so traffic will have to turn right, not left. So that's good in that sense. As far as crossing driveways, one of the things that Priodi noted was that we would keep 8 parking stalls if we were to do the parking next to the curb versus away from the curb, right? And part of that is because we have to allow for sight distance. So you lose parking so that people can see around. A lot of it is going to be learned.
Like right next to the driveway.
The driveways, so you'll see how there's just more space and less, not on this, it would be farther down, right, on,
Like for this driveway, where is my mouse?
but
On any driveways.
Like this driveway, you'll see there, if there wasn't any, there would be more parking, but we are taking it off. And I think as you go to design, you'll see more kind of a clear distance that you need to see on the side to
Yeah.
turn right.
Yeah, because the existing condition is it's 2 lanes. there
Yes,
With
Yeah.
parking, so visibility is very bad.
yeah.
If you're trying to come out because you have 5 feet over the hood of the car or whatever for visibility, so it's substantially increased and so I think that, again, it's education of how the flow works, but in general, you have longer sight lines with this design.
that is the intent. And as Priti mentioned, the FHWA does say that that is a safer condition for collisions and bicyclists, leading us back to our vision 0, right? That is what we're looking for, and that's what's leading us.
Clarifying questions?
Right, first, this is very clear. I don't actually have a strong opinion yet on this, but I do want to make sure I understand. So there are, as part of this project, it's sort of, because it's just restriping, there's not like meant to be major intersection adjustments. Is the reason that I asked them the clarifying questions about why there weren't any changes to the lane configurations at sort of the Maryland Castro and Miramonte intersection? Is I don't know what we would choose for the lane configuration there if we were starting this whole project from scratch, but it will, but it does look a bit odd to have that like widen out to a bunch of lanes and then narrow up again immediately after. Is that specifically because like the traffic signals themselves mean it would be awkward to have any other lane configuration, or is this just pure inertia?
Are you just speaking this area?
Yeah, like I look at that, that looks a bit, it
Yeah.
looks a bit weird to me to
Yes.
see that, so I wonder.
So this is us having 2 projects going at the same time.
Okay,
So this is segment B was in design as we were planning segment A. And we
Okay.
didn't know where they were gonna land with B, so we needed to
Okay.
have something. And as the CIP team moves into design, they will make sure that they coordinate appropriately and we get the right configuration there.
so we might end up with changes to lane configuration for this
I
intersection.
would say you most definitely will end up with changes
Okay,
to that
so we're
lane
linking it.
configuration.
Yeah, we
Okay.
are not imagining this to be this long, you know,
Okay,
merging
okay.
into.
Yeah, it looked a bit weird. I wasn't sure what to make of it,
Right.
so, okay, that sounds reasonable. The okay, still on this part of the map. So, and from earlier, that's a class 2 bike lane currently on northbound Miramonte, starting from that intersection? Is that correct?
Yeah, there is class
Is
2.
there a reason that's class 2 rather than having vertical elements in the buffer?
Oh, right now, in
Well,
here,
in this like
in this slide,
preliminary design, yeah, right, that strip has no vertical elements, is my understanding.
we are, when the design team is going to migrate it, we are going to see how early we can put on the vertical element, because you're going to have parking protected. We are going to have vertical element over here. So that is to come as part of
As
the.
part of that
design.
merge, so.
Yeah.
Okay, that helps for understanding. In terms of the parking that does remain in loading zones, right now so it's just that area in front of the school that's a loading zone. Was there any particular consideration put towards putting loading zones in other locations, or have we developed any policies about where we choose to put loading zones? Or these sorts of things as we restrict parking more?
Not at this phase. Our traffic team will explore that. We have different classes for loading.
Okay.
You
We
show
are-
that area.
Oh, the St. Joseph
Oh,
area.
yeah,
where there's a
I can
loading
bring
zone?
it up.
Isn't it more drop-off zone or?
They-
I mean, I.
They are using it that way. That was not how it was intended. And when we talked to the school, they don't want to encourage that. They want parents to use the parking lot and not drop off on Miramonte. They did ask to keep it though for when they do stuff at the parish so that they can unload. So we did have the conversation with them and tried to make sure that we were accommodating their needs, but they would prefer, and we would from a Vision Zero Safe Routes to School prefer that parents are dropping in a parking lot and not on a busy road.
So this segment doesn't show the loading zone, correct?
It shows right there next to Sonia. I don't know where my
The
mouse.
50 linear feet school loading
Yeah,
zone.
yeah,
that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, here.
Oh, okay.
So this is,
Okay, so it would be pulling through the paint protected,
No,
or no, excuse, the cutout, excuse.
the cutoff is restricted.
Yeah, and so that's why it was placed next to their parish, that they said that's where they would rather have that space.
it's for their functional need than student drop off.
Okay, additional questions. So for the Park Drive slip lane, I know I made some questions about the slip lane itself. This will end up being in comments later, but I guess if we were to look at any sort of like closing that slip lane in ways similar to how the like Wasatch Drive Pier 6 intersection got posted through traffic in the last year or so, is that something that would be, is that sort of element at all feasible here, or is that just a separate project entirely?
Likely a separate project. When you are vacating public right of way,
Yeah.
there's a much longer process.
Okay.
It doesn't mean it can't be done, but it's not really in the timing of this project.
Okay, thank you.
And can you illustrate again where specifically?
So that's from
Right
northbound Miramonte at the bottom, the sort of, if you were to go actually keep driving the vehicle straight, you end up in the slip lane onto Park Drive. That's the only way to end up turning onto Park Drive because that other bit only has a sort of outbound lane in a sense. At least right now. I don't know if you could accommodate a right turn onto it from there.
I don't think so.
I was looking at it, I don't think you could, I'm not gonna state that affirmatively without.
I walked like this week and I was like, no, it's too narrow.
So, yeah, and I don't know how often people accidentally drive straight at speed into that slip lane. That's actually something I was curious about, but not sure I have great statistics on it.
Never seen anybody drive there.
Well, the traffic
Yeah,
has
it's zero.
approximately no one drives.
No one drives there.
So, then in terms of other questions, since we're on this view still, the other end of Park Drive. I believe at the prior BPAC meeting, there's some comments about being able to make, sort of logical lefts from that area onto northbound Miramonte. Is the reason that, I assume we're just basically not touching that median as part of this project if we can.
Right.
Okay, thank you. And with regards to all these sort of right turns at the intersections, the clarifying comments said that we were leaving sort of a merging zone or whatever it was referred to as ahead of each intersection, basically. Can someone remind me what guidance that is based off of? Sort of how we leave like 50-ish feet, I don't know if that's the actual number, in advance of each intersection, so people can sort of pull out of the traffic lane, merge with the bike lane, and then make a right turn.
So since this is a concept plan, we are
Yeah.
really looking into the best practices and the guidance. And one of the document that we heavily used is Vision Zero Action Plan that was adopted last year, which does show kind of, delineators to help, do road configuration. And I know our consultant also took a look into NACDO and AASHTO guidelines for these. These specific details will get ironed out more in design. This is just showing kind of what the layout will be. What is the bike facility on each of the bound of Miramonte? But The dash line, the sight line, those will more to come. This is really meant to be kind of communicating the parking removal, the road diet, and the bike facility.
They'll have a full survey. They'll know how exactly, how wide it is. Where a lot of this is a conceptual.
But this would be a good opportunity for us to provide input on what we think the design should
Sure,
include.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, that was answered. And then the last one is, this is sort of for the, well, actually, no, this is a comment. I'll leave it for the comment section.
Okay, clarifying question, go ahead.
Yeah, so I had another batch, I guess. I don't know. You mentioned that green elements and things like this would be TBDs or to be deferred, and I understand the finances and so on, but you still preserve space for it. So could you talk about where you foresee it being and what type? I mean,
Yeah, so the intent was for us not to preclude greening of these streets as funding or as we determine a policy or how that works out. So anywhere where you see those big buffers, we could add greening. Right, that's the intent, that the buffers would, instead of being striping and vertical delineators, could become greening.
so that wouldn't be trees or things like this,
It
right?
can be.
Oh, it
Mhm.
could be there.
Yeah, I mean,
In
if
theory.
funding is available,
Sure.
yes, you could do all of that, those greening projects where you would see the, curb to curb, assuming you've got the right width for a
Yeah.
tree to grow and succeed, but
And
yes.
sightlines.
And the sight
And the
lines.
site,
Yeah.
Another question has to do with the traffic lights. I think there is one by San Joseph, and I think it's
Sonia.
Sonia, and then another one. So maybe if you can switch to that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, this one here. Do you have information about the phases of the light? I mean, or things like this, and
I don't have that today, but we can get back to you on that.
and could some phases be changed or things like this?
That would all be evaluated during the
Yeah.
design.
The reason I'm asking is that, that seems to be a good candidate to eliminate white on red, given the low volumes onto and off Sonia and onto the school, and it would make things much safer. So, and I think it's a bit similar, I think, with Marilyn and Castro. I mean, there's hardly any traffic going in and out of Maryland. It's pretty much a dead end street, really, for cars. And that's again would be safer if we didn't have, the things, and it would not affect traffic much because there is low traffic. And then I had two more questions that build on the clarifications I had. So if you can move to the part closer to El Camino. You have a slide, yeah, this one. So there is kind of an access road / multi-use path that goes into Miramonte or things like this. I mean, because I was involved with the neighborhood when the thing there, and it was redesigned as an access road. We kind of managed to make it bike accessible by pushing. But there is a need to have trucks and things like this access this for maintenance, for delivering hot dogs for the football, for baseball games and so on. And it looks like it's not.
No,
it's
we'll
not going to
open
be a
it.
very
I
actual
think
driveway,
that-
but it's
Yeah, we will open that. I think it will, you'll show that gap. It's currently I think we didn't catch
And
that
then-
cut yet.
Yeah, and then I had another, building on one of the questions I had asked. If you look at the top, that's on Park Drive, at the level of the parking for the baseball fields, that's there. There is actually right now a loading zones, and it's really was meant for the baseball players, parents dropping their kids, and that was the case even before the flood basin, and it made a lot of sense there because kids could walk straight on the field. But right now they can't because, that's underground. I mean, so they have to go, all the way there and pretty much wind up where they could have been dropped off in that roundabout circle. So in practice, that's not very used. So when I asked the question, that was the idea to switch, to make that loading zone on park, that's really for baseball, not for the school, to make it a parking area, and then make the loading zone for baseball on Miramonte, because it would hopefully make things safer. So that was the intent there. So I just wanted to clarify this.
Quick question, with the buffer there with the green, this is, I'm talking about the road going into the cup, I don't even know the street name. The one going up there, this is the park.
Yes.
Now we're having the buffer there, and then with the bike going, is it gonna be easy for the bike to go into, you know, come out of the buffer and go trying to make a left?
Are
You
you
know,
talking
yeah,
about right here?
Yeah, see, so if it's going down, if you're going to the south, let's go south, and then the car, the bicycle is trying to go up. And then there's a lot of buffer there, so next to the green. Okay, yep, we're stop right there, yeah. And then so if they're with those, you know, those panels, I don't know what those are called, but there, if you're trying to bike over there, you know, so that the bike can make a left, having buffers there and having, is it easy for a bike to make a left? Yeah, is it?
I can answer in current conditions.
Mhm.
It depends on traffic. You have to be aggressive to get out into traffic with the two lanes.
But today, the safer thing is to cross at the crosswalk there and take the multi-use path there.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
crosswalk doesn't exist right now.
It does, it's basically not marked. No,
It is marked. It's not signaled.
I don't know.
There is paint.
Oh, right, yeah.
There's yellow paint. I mean, it's.
I don't feel safe walking across the crosswalk right now.
Yeah, so I
The-
don't, that's why I forget about because I don't use
I'm
it.
just clarifying, the one shown in yellow, or there's a
Yeah, the
different?
one shown,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which we will be installing an RRFB, so that should help with
Yeah,
the,
well, also reducing lanes, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, to answer your question, depending on the speed you're going and the traffic, it could be hard to get out in the traffic lane with those short
Yeah.
line of sight kind of merge areas coming out of the bike lane. You might have to begin it just at the beginning of the curb with the longer green dash markings there. So, you know, you would have
we
to
can
know
look
in
at that area
advance.
as the design advances, yeah.
Yeah, people's gonna have to know that too,
Yeah.
before they cross it.
Yeah, so your second time, you would probably recognize you gotta do that. But if it's your visitor first time, you probably have to almost stop and wait for traffic to clear.
Do you have more clarifying questions?
Seeing none.
Since we're starting to veer into
Okay.
comments.
So if we could, let's go to public comments. Any members of the public in the room wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, can we go to Zoom?
We have April Webster. Give me 1 second, April. I need to find my timer. Okay,
Is it, am I good to go? Oh, sorry.
I'm
We're
almost
trying to get the
there.
timer.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, thank you. I'm really excited about, oh, thanks. I'm really excited about this project, but I do want to ask the questions about a few things. One is on data transparency, and I've been thinking about this for a while. In the presentation, Peyote stated that traffic counts, speed analyses, and parking counts were all collected, but I didn't see those in the data and the agenda packet. And I think this kind of information would be really important. I'm also curious about the survey and how the proposed parking was surveyed, what sort of demographic makeup of users were factored into the analysis. This sort of context is really important. I've sat on the ATP, the state ATP funding evaluation committee, and we look at this sort of data when we're deciding if funding should be awarded to a project. I think this sort of information should be presented to public representatives like committees and councils. I would also be very curious to have this presented. What other sort of measures were considered, like traffic calming measures? You typically in these projects, we only see one or two options. you know, for example, were ball boats or roundabouts or other design treatments evaluated? If they were removed from the short list of options that were presented, why? Was it cost, timing, or something else? Just like the other information mentioned, this, I think this is important. If you were a client building a house, for example, you would expect to be shown the different design options and then you know, what those costs and timing would be, et cetera. And then you'd be able to make an informed decision about where your money is going to be spent. And I think that's, you know, in this context of streets, the public's the customer, the community is the customer, and the council and other elected representatives are making those decisions for us. So I think in each of these opportunities, every time this is providing more of this data should be standard. I also wanted to ask about trees. I heard Sarah mention something about this. But I noticed we also I haven't seen this yet in any of our projects, but we don't pull in I haven't seen us pulling in the tree inventory that we have available for the city. And I think that could be integrated. Having it separate in the biodiversity plan makes it really challenging to have a more holistic design. And I've already seen this starting to get integrated in other cities. For example, in Sacramento, on the Franklin Boulevard Complete Street project, the engineer, I believe her name is Megan Johnson, talked about doing an analysis to look for shade deserts and to start to fix that because, you know, as we all have seen, temperatures are kind of rising and it's a public safety and a public health issue. So I would love to see, in short, more data, more transparency, and the analysis process provided to decision makers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Jesse Cup.
Hello. Yeah, I just think it's a good looking project so far, and I want to second the proposal that includes the protected bike lane that's separated by parked vehicles. The other one where it was like sidewalk and then parked vehicles and then a bike lane, just I think is going to put people at risk of getting gored. So, but it looks like that is kind of the alternative and not really what staff is proposing. So hopefully we just go with the proposal, and I think it's good. I think since the city has done El Camino and California in a similar way, we're going to learn good lessons from those projects, and Miramonte will hopefully be even better for that. So thank you.
That's all.
Okay, concluding comments from members of the public, going back to collect committee comments. Go ahead, Mr. Stone.
I have one question, but I can also re-raise the public member of the public. Like, were other things like bulb outs considered, or because this was mostly a paving project, they were not considered in this?
Yes, so so as I mentioned at the beginning, this included a segment A and a segment C. Segment A is currently funded as part of our paving project, and that is due to start design now. So we were trying to stay on that so that we can do as much with this paving project to get not the best, but better, right, for this situation, and not preclude us from doing changes as we move forward with our bike system, our bike and pedestrian network and our ATP and everything that's coming. Segment C does have some more options available. Unfortunately, segment C does not have any funding at this time. So we have included in there some more, I'm gonna say atypical for Mountain View approaches, some new things. That being said, without funding, we kind of said, this is what we could do if these become a project, if this becomes a project, and we'll continue to explore that. So that's where you would see more of the roundabouts, the bulb outs. But because we're pairing this with the paving project that is already adopted and approved by council, that's where this landed.
If we could go to the part of the design that interfaces with El Camino. I used to live in Shoreline West, and we were going to Bub at the time, and biked this road once and never again. But there are kids who bike it every single day to go to Brain. Not the preferred alternative, but they do it anyway. But anyway, so that makes me think about going south on Shoreline there. When you get into this project area, there is nothing to indicate for the bikes coming from Shoreline into Miramonte, where their space is. And it does look like there is space there to put some like green dashed lines. So that's something I would like to see. Yeah. That's all I had. It's a good project.
Thank you.
I had one question about the format. So you I don't know. We're supposed to choose between the two alternatives too, right? That's one decision we have to make.
I'm sorry.
No, we do have to choose between the two alternatives.
Yes, we
right?
are
So-
asking
so
for a
that's-
recommendation to
okay.
CTC.
Along with our comments on.
Correct.
Seconds. Sure, so I'll go for this. So first, I think it's a, it's a good project, and I'm all for making it better, not necessarily the best, in my lifetime. So, and I think it's also a piece of road that's overdue for pavement. I mean, there is gravel there. Every time there is a storm or rain, we have holes and things like this, and I report it and you patch it, but it's like that's overdue for this. So I'm definitely grateful that you consider this, and I don't want to delay it because there is value in just repaving. It makes it safer for everyone. I have just a few suggestions, I guess. So first on the alternatives, I prefer to be consistent, so that if most of that section of Miramonte will be parking protecting bikes, I think it should be the same everywhere. It's too confusing to do this, and I had a few suggestions on the project. The first one is to make sure that we have marked crosswalks on all the side streets, regardless of why it's a mismatch now. Again, in the name of consistency. So that's whatever the reasons, if we decide that one street has to have a marked crosswalk, the next one, which is really the same, should be the same, because that's how you make a network, right? It's to be consistent. The second suggestions is one that I remake here is to change the parking that's in the curve towards on Miramonte. So pretty much that parking here, to change it to be a loading zone, and then on Park to use the existing loading zone, which is more that's on Park Drive, more towards AAA. Yeah, pretty much on the side of the parking lot there. This is a loading area right now, and my suggestion would be to make this a parking area that will provide the neighborhood and the apartments, some places to park, because there is nobody living by the by the park, so that parking is really from places that don't have enough parking and the likes. Because it would be a wash there. The reason I'm suggesting this is for safety. First of all, it's safer to park on Park Drive than in a curve on Miramonte, because you're gonna have to exit in traffic when you do that. Also, it will improve the visibility because people won't be parked there. They will be stopping, and that's one issue you have in that crosswalk is it's very difficult to see once you have cars parked, even as far in the park. So
Say we did remove some of that by the crosswalk for that.
yeah, but pretty much whatever is left, kind of swap it with this, and I think it should be that was there. The third thing is again, that access road, that's multi things, you know, just to make sure that's fair, because I'm sure the park department will get all over you if they can't get their truck there, so.
Yeah.
So,
So
Uh,
drive, please. Yeah.
and the final suggestions I have is to consider removing right on red by San Joseph and Sonia, and possibly also by Marilyn and things, because I live near there and I'm pretty much on Miramonte every day. I backed here today. I walked here, you know, walking here today. And there is no traffic really from Sonia or the school when it's not on session to start with. So you won't have backups, and then Marilyn is just no traffic whatsoever. So, but otherwise that's a good plan.
Thank you. Who's off?
Yeah, yeah, I agree with this good project, and not letting, like, we want to get this into the paving program, so, yeah, fully on board with that. I agree with others that I will like the recommended alternative more. I do not see any reason to do the alternative that would create a bike lane in the door zone of a bunch of cars. As some notes, I just for my own thinking and for everyone else, I'll remind everyone that like this will make traffic along Miramonte a lot slower. And that's and that'll be helpful for thinking about why we make different design choices here. In fact, I think it'll get even more slowed down than California Street is, because this does not have that extra center double left turn lane. So the lanes will feel visually much more constricted to drivers. So you'll typically end up with people going even slower than that in practice, and it's more curvy road than California Street. I did find the included data on traffic counts and parking utilization helpful. Thank you for including that in the staff report. And then for recommendations, actually, first I'll start with recommendations that are sort of long-term. I know what we've done in this project, but I like to mention these things because sometimes they come up. One is I would like to see raised crosswalks at some point. I know that's probably not part of this project, but it slows down the traffic and makes things a lot safer. As I was alluding to, getting rid of that slip lane onto Park Drive, I think would be valuable. I know when I don't bike along there right now. Hopefully when I'm biking along there in the future, that will make me nervous. Just that spot where someone could easily keep driving straight on Miramonte and I might not have good visibility to them from my bicycle or the such. And then I will also like to someday see the removal of those slip lanes to and from El Camino Real, but I understand that will hopefully be part of the protected intersection project there that will come about at some point. In terms of stuff that I think is more immediate, first, I do think we should try to include some initial plans for where we put loading zones instead of parking, just from what I'm seeing on like California and El Camino and on places like actually Villa Street. Where there have been various improvements recently, that's all good, but people need to get packages unloaded, get into and out of ride shares. So trying to plan those in from the start would make sense. It sounds like this will likely be done. I will restate though, I want to see full protection to the extent reasonable. So that section that's near the Castro Street intersection, sounds like that's going to be looked at as this and the segment B project are reconciled, but I'll state it explicitly here. One thing that I would like to see, which I saw in some parts of California Street and not others, is some vertical elements in sort of where there's the visibility zones in a sense, where there's no parking, but it's just a buffer, including some level of vertical element, which maybe just be very short ones so that people don't park there. Seems to be good because, as I think a public commenter was mentioning earlier, people love to park in those zones right now on California Street. And I will agree with Mayor Bonte's comments about no right turns on red. And then the slightly more substantive or meaty recommendations. First off, do we have a sense for how much space? So, okay, the reason I will ask this is that I would like to make it easy for someone to get onto northbound Miramonte from the neighborhood that is sort of in the upward half of this picture. Currently, if you do not ride on the sidewalk, that means coming from either that bike path or from Park Drive, riding all the way down to Sonia, crossing out the crosswalk and riding all the way back up to El Camino Real. I don't think we need to have a left turn from Park Drive onto northbound Miramonte. However, if we had a bit of bidirectional bike lane between the bike path and the crosswalk to across Park Drive at the bottom of the screen, then it would be much easier to go from the bike path, go northbound along Miramonte, but on the southbound side, without having to ride on the sidewalk, which people may not intuitively do. Cross to the crosswalk and then get onto the northbound bike lane. That depends on there being enough right of way. If I squint at this picture, it looks like there might be enough right of way. I can't tell. So I guess I would be curious for staff's impression of that, if that is a plausible thing. I'm guessing the answer is going to be, it would have to be looked at in design, but.
Are you suggesting to add another
So
boundary
not
on
up
this
there,
one?
I'm saying just for that like short section is probably 50 to 100 feet between where the bike path from McKelvey Park comes out to the crosswalk for Park Drive. So from there, then move the cursor to the
Yeah,
left.
wait.
To
Right
there.
Right there.
Yeah, so for between those two sections, if you come out of the bike path, if you want to get onto northbound Miramonte, how do you do so right now? You can right now ride on the sidewalk because you're permitted to in Mountain View. However, that sidewalk I don't think is the widest in the world. It's not the narrowest either. And I generally prefer not to have people ride on the sidewalk if we don't have to. And so it seems like it'd be very reasonable to have a short section of bidirectional bike lane that directed people to that crosswalk. They use the crosswalk to get onto the correct side of the street, and they continue along northbound Miramonte until they get to El Camino Real and then cross into downtown Mountain View. Does that make sense? Okay, yeah, and I think that also reduces the need I would see for any sort of left turn from the other section of Park Drive onto Miramonte, because I know certainly when I am wanting to make that left turn, I'm actually already riding by the bike path. I just don't go onto the bike path because I know if I get onto the bike path, I'm going to have to like do a sketchy crossing of Miramonte regardless, or I'm going to have to go all the way down to Sonia, turn around and have ended up diverting like a quarter to a half mile. But I don't, but yeah, I think I don't know that we need that extra left turn if we have that little bit of sort of bidirectional bike lane. Yeah, putting that one out there. The other one is that at a lot of these intersections for that like merge weave zone in the right turn lane, I think my instincts, which I don't have a citation on a manual for this, unfortunately, is that I would prefer to treat this sort of more like protected intersections where you try to tighten up the turn radius at those and don't have as much of that sort of merging zone. And so you're protected basically, if you're in the bike lane, you're protected right up to the intersection. And then yes, a car can right hook right in front of you. But A, hopefully they have good visibility because we don't have parking in the lead up to the intersection. And B, they'll be traveling slowly because of the tight turn radii. That would also tie in with if we wanted to use use those same sort of vertical elements of just like plastic elements for quasi bulb outs, because if you're tightening the turn radius anyways, it's not a proper bulb out because it's not the same like expanding the curb that you would, but it feels like that would help with safety. That seems consistent with my understanding of most guidelines. Otherwise, I said I don't have a specific citation.
For clarification, the area you're looking at is like right across from Valencia.
This has had a bunch of them, but let's go to the middle segment. I think that's the one where there's the most examples of these. I've been staring at this section for a while.
Sorry, my things do different things at this time. Okay, here, I think this section.
Yeah, this section has I think a couple of examples. So if we look at sort of say Harpster Drive at the bottom, so from northbound Miramonte onto Harpster Drive, right now there's a very wide turn radius for cars that are turning right onto Harpster Drive, so they can take that quite fast. And what I'm sort of questioning is, okay, if we took that thing that's basically a right turn lane and just kept it as buffer, so there's no cars parked in it, so there's no there will hopefully not be a visibility problem. And then you just have to make that tight right turn if you're in a vehicle onto Harpster Drive, then you're going slower than if you were to do the sort of wider turn that you would do right now, which should hopefully also help with pedestrian safety at that same crossing. And yeah, and then you feel more protected in the bike lane because you're spending more time in an actual protected zone.
We'll have to look at the code for that, but yeah,
Okay.
we can look at that.
Okay, yeah, so that's in my, I just see that and that's like, hey, I feel like when I'm riding along on that bike lane, I'll be like, this feels like it should just be protected. It'll probably feel like cars are taking it too fast when we have it in a configuration, if we had it in a configuration that looks like this, is my impression. But yeah, I would appreciate someone digging into the actual proper citations. Those are all my comments, and I look forward to us figuring out exactly how we want to make a motion once we get there, but I think there might be others who need to make their comments.
Okay, comments? Yeah, I'll finish with mine then. So number one, I think the marking is good. You mentioned it's still in process. I think making sure we're consistent with California Street, with El Camino, because I think it's a driver education and it looks like it is. So I think that all feeds back on each other for proper behavior and just learning exactly how the cars and pedestrians and bicyclists interact. The second one kind of reflecting on the green trees and the green streets. This is a bit of a shade desert. I try to avoid this. That's one of the reasons in warmer days. April mentioned in her comments, one of the main comments I had on the El Camino bike lanes is that this is much more pleasant. Those trees on the south side, the oaks that were planted 40 feet ago, provide shade off the whole bike lane and out in the traffic lanes. This is not too bad, actually. So it's, not only the bike infrastructure, but they recognize that the trees are attractive for bicycles and pedestrians. And I believe they're also shown to show traffic speeds regardless of lane width. So when we can get trees in here, all the better. And the final one is disappointed that between El Camino and Park, we don't have a crosswalk. There is no, it would require a curb cut there. I believe that was 800 feet or more from El Camino to the crosswalk that's shown. So that doesn't meet any of the guidelines. Some of the older apartment buildings on Park are likely to be redeveloped, so there'll be more residents in there coming out and looking to kind of make that left across shoreline so they can continue down El Camino to locations there. So between El Camino and the Mark crosswalk there, I think was getting on 800 to 900 feet. I believe the standards are 500 or less. So disappointed that we can't do something there to add that crosswalk. I think we need to look at where we can get funding to put that curb cut and facilitate those pedestrians who are already crossing there, and there's likely to only be more in the future. So that's my comments. I do like the protected parking. I think that does a lot for the safety of the cyclist, does a lot for distancing the cars from the pedestrians and slowing traffic. So I like that option. Thank you. Seeing no further comments, I think we would be prepared to entertain a motion. I believe you would be looking for.
Yes, so motion back on the screen.
And to clarify, does staff feel like the feedback was reasonably coherent? And to what degree we should incorporate any of our feedback in the motion versus a straightforward, like recommend the preferred alternative?
I think recommending the preferred alternative is good. We will take your comments and make sure that they're also shown to CTC on Tuesday. I would like to summarize what I've heard, so I make sure that I've got what I've got here. So I'm going to work. Now I'm all turned around. I'm going to work southbound on Miramonte because I've written them on my drawing as we go here. So, yeah, you go ahead. You go for it. So I'm gonna start with the first thing I heard is to explore switching the loading and the parking at the ballpark and looking at parking on Park and loading on Miramonte.
Oh,
Explore a crosswalk also around that location. Look at what the turning would be left onto Park there if you're coming northbound in the bike lane. So we'll look at the geometrics of that as well as we continue this. Make sure that we capture the driveway and maintenance road that's at the end of the ball field and explore a bi-directional bike lane there to the crosswalk at Park. Okay. I got it backwards. Okay, then I have explore the right turn on red on the next couple cross sections as we go. For Sonia and Miramonte, Marilyn and Miramonte, and there was one more you said.
Well, I think Sonia Miramonte is also San Joseph because it's kind
Yes,
of
up there, yeah.
a type of intersection. It's a
Yeah.
kind of a private drive.
And the driveway for, yeah, and this, yeah, so that area I have for the no right turn on red and explore that, as well as the example being at Harper Drive, but the right turn, making sure that we meet the code and requirements for the right turn, but minimize that as much as possible to tighten up the right turns across bike lanes.
Yeah.
Okay, did I hit everything?
Also thinking about loading zones, where we're gonna put loading zones.
Oh, that is a general note I wrote for delivery vehicles, stoppage and loading for delivery vehicles, because I think that's gonna have to be a policy discussion, but
Yeah.
yes. I wrote, that's an ATP note,
Yeah, I'm not sure that has. to
but yes, I got that one.
I know I was raising that, I say like, it's nice if that happens at the same time things go in, it's also not strictly, it doesn't strictly have to.
But yeah, and that might help with some of our loading location shifts, but
So
yes.
I just follow up on his suggestion. I think there is something also about the slip lane onto Park from.
I was raising that as a long-term thing, I was saying like I know I was listing a few like things I would like to see us talk about eventually, but I don't think are in scope for this project.
It's not within the scope of this project, but we can add it to the radar for sure.
Yeah.
I think there is a lot of wasted space there, and if you want to do some greeneries, it's probably a very good place to do it.
Yes, again, I will have to go through city attorney and everything else to
Yeah,
vacate
but
right
it's-
away, and but yes, I've got that.
And that one about right turns was just sort of to all the right turns, not it, Harpster was.
Yes, I use that as the example
Yes, yes.
location.
That's what it
Yes.
sounded like, just making sure.
Yes, yes. That's where I drew my circle, so I just
Yeah.
wanna.
Okay, so I think we would agree the comments are summarized. Now can we get a statement of your view of the alternatives?
I think we can do a motion and vote.
Okay, we ready for a motion then? Okay.
Yeah, so I propose that we approve the alternative that was presented to us. The one where bikes are protected by parking.
Staff recommended.
Or throughout Miramontes.
I will second the motion to approve, we recommend the preferred alternative concept plan for Miramonte Avenue complete street study from El Camino Real to Castro Street, Maryland Street, house to see.
So I'm going to say for the record that we have Bonte starting with the motion and Vice Chair Kuzmal as the second. There we go.
So the motion is in favor of the staff recommended alternative.
Yeah.
We're ready for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
So it passes
Passes
unanimously.
unanimously,
Great.
5-0. Okay. More treats.
More trees. I'll add
This
that.
project, AKA.
Okay, so that concludes item 6.2. moving forward to item 7, staff and committee comments. Was there any notices or presentation comments from staff?
We can have some project updates.
Yes, we're pulling up the slides right now. Hi. For a refresher, Ben Pacho, acting transportation manager. I'm being, so some recent events we'd like to share is the new trail bridge at Amesville Hotel to Stevens Creek Trail. So the bridge effectively connects Stevens Creek Trail to Moffett Boulevard through the Amesville development site at 750 Moffett Boulevard. So I do, recommend that you write it. I think it's open to the public now.
I don't, is it?
No?
I don't think so. I mean, I back
Well, there's
this morning, so.
noticed,
Not as if this morning, so.
Okay, so, sorry, correction.
It's almost done, but.
We
it's
will
like-
send a communication.
On the current status of the project.
Yeah,
Maybe you
well,
don't
we'll send an update once it is open to the public.
Right, okay. So belay that comment. And then,
But the trail is back open, there's no detour.
It's not, it's narrower or things
Okay.
like this, but you still have the trail closed at the end.
Okay.
You know.
Well, that's a
to-
separate.
Yeah, that's a separate things, but
Okay.
it's,
That's
I see a lot of people go.
Huh?
The signs and the website still say it'll be closed weekdays next week, but not
Okay.
Labor Day.
okay, thank you.
That is correct.
Thanks for keeping us updated on that, on my update. So second bullet there, El Camino Real education efforts. So we've been working with a consultant on developing educational content to educate roadway users to practice safe turns around bollards, protected intersections, zones with various vertical elements like armadillos and flexible posts. So that's kind of been practiced at El Camino and sharing those learnings at what's happening in California. So it's an ongoing effort that we're doing and making sure we're reinforcing the feedback loop that we're hearing from the community. And then,
And it'll be in your Instagram feed soon.
yeah.
Looking better already.
Yeah.
We have.
So go back to your third bullet, I didn't quite understand.
We have some Ask MVs. So there was an Ask MV that was submitted to paint striping to effectively put it in a bike lane from California on San Antonio from California. So yeah, from San Antonio all the way to Del Medio. And so the striping has been put in, and so now there is.
Yeah, so a project that stemmed from an Ask MV, we were able to, with our team, add a stripe, and so there is now a striped bike lane.
And this was mentioned in prior meetings.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
This is to close the loop. The work
Yes.
is done.
Okay.
And a car parked in it right now.
Working on education.
Exactly. Full circle. So next slide, please. Oh, happy season. So it's back to school and we've been fully engaged in kind of showing up at a number of our elementary, middle and high school, making sure to promote our Safe Routes to School programming. And so what was it, last week? We kind of touched a number of these schools here for ice cream socials and bike rodeos. And then kind of topped off the week with a bike to boba on Friday.
No,
Or was it early?
Month, it's
Like
been a
month?
couple of weeks.
Oh, okay.
Earlier this month.
Earlier this month, sorry, it's been a long month. Bear with me. So, yes, how many students were in attendance for Bike to Boba?
I think we had about 25. This one was the biggest one.
Biggest one, and we handed out all of our bike lights. And yeah, so it was a successful event. Next slide. So we do have the Miramonte survey that's active. It does close at the end of this month, and we're giving folks posts, BPAC and CTC to, or not CTC, but after BPAC to, fill out the survey if they haven't already. Lots of change and transition afoot in transportation in Mountain View. So this week we received notice that transportation planner Aruna Buduna is resigning her post with the city and accepted a position with City of Campbell as a traffic engineer. So it's a loss. She's been with the city for about 6 years and was instrumental in shepherding, the pedestrian mall and overseeing kind of the interior improvements and kind of the design and treatments for the permanent project. So will be sorely missed, and yeah, just thankful for her service. So Brandon wanted me to provide some Ask MV updates from April and May. So if you see ×4, that means we got 4 complaints from different people of the same thing. So for April, we got Ask MVs for 2 cars that were blocking the bike lane at 555 Evelyn. Couple complaints of Del Medio and California being an unsafe intersection. A number of submissions about confusion on ECR bike lanes. Number 6, in fact, identifying parking in the bike lane on El Camino, and a van parked for several weeks, and one expressing his appreciation for no turn on right red on ECR, and another submission identifying that our bike fix-it stations are broken and vandalized. And then 2 submissions about crosswalks on ECR that were where there were conditions of crushed stone and asphalt. May Ask MVs, there was a request to provide a bike lane on Hope Street. 2 submissions of cars blocking bike lane on 555 Evelyn, and again, some confusion on ECR bike lanes. So kind of dovetails with our kind of education efforts on ECR. And then PD kind of stepping up information and education about parking in the bike lane on El Camino. So yeah, I think that concludes, staff updates.
Okay, thank you for the staff updates. Any committee comments?
How do you guys respond to the cases that they call?
So it's time bound, we receive them and we have X number of days to respond. Brandon and Karen Gauss manage the Ask MVs that are submitted that are bicycle and pedestrian related. So depending on the issue, we'll escalate it interdepartmentally to resolve them. For example, the striping lane on California at San Antonio. We worked with our streets team to identify, the conditions and kind of the road work and construction and timing of that. So that's kind of a context specific one, how SCMVs are submitted and dealt with, but we do encourage, community members to use the Ask MV system. It's a really important way for us registering community feedback and requests and being able to document and identify trends and patterns for dealing with certain issues that we're seeing, and to get like really important metrics for again for what we're seeing and being able to identify within an appropriate amount of time.
For things like the parking, we send those off to PD so they know where we're seeing the issues and they can go out and either flyer or enforce and have those conversations. If the gravel in the road, we'll look and see if there's a permit pulled. If it's construction related, we'll ask them to sweep. If it's something that's just, wear and tear of our roads, we'll talk to our streets team. So it just kind of depends on the situation, but yeah, they're constantly monitored.
I'll add more responsive than most cities for the similar systems. Any other additional committee comments?
Briefly public comment on staff components, right?
No.
It doesn't say on my instruction from Brandon.
Yeah, I think we usually do.
We usually ask and no one does.
Yeah, and there's no hands raised.
Okay, Serge?
Yeah, so I actually
Are we on item 7.2 now, which is the committee comments part of item 7? I'm just making sure I know
I
where.
think so, yes.
Okay. Great.
All right, so let's go. All right, so the first thing is that when are we gonna get back to getting VTA meetings feedback?
I was going to provide an update on that in my comments.
Oh, okay, so, all right, so questions answered. The second thing is it's really a comment. So that wasn't the goal of the bike lanes on El Camino, but I wanted to share my experience that walking on El Camino feels a bit safer. It's still not great, but I mean, that's not like my top 2 hike or walk or things like this. But there is a sense of safety that comes from having the vehicles further away, especially when I walk back home at night, because there is no really biking, so that's really a nice buffer there. So just that's one positive side effect of these things.
You additional comments on 7.2?
So, okay, VTA updates. First off, yes, I have not been officially on the VTA BPAC yet because we recommended the appointment, then our council had to approve it. Then it sounds like some timing on that getting to VTA was just missed a VTA committee meeting because
Their board meeting,
yeah, because like how our council has to formally appoint our VTA BPAC representative, VTA board has to formally accept the representative. And so I did actually make it to most of, but not all of the most recent VTA BPAC meeting, although I was just listening in. And I should actually be on at the next one and then hopefully can provide a proper update on then and do the regular updates like Lotta used to. The short update from the prior one, since I may as well give a short update of what happened, even though I didn't prepare nice notes, was that there were just about several informational items. One about a collision database that's county-wide, most of the discussion was actually about how ancient the software that was being used was, since it's something called Crossroads. I am not familiar with all the background there, but it sounds like it's a bit of a pain to use and the data doesn't tend to make its way to the public all that efficiently. But also it is, with changing can be hard. So I don't know the full details. They had a presentation on their local road safety plan for the county, which I don't believe is yet fully adopted. And it covers county roads and expressways, so both unincorporated county and expressways. There were a variety of questions. Some people talking about reducing lane widths or reducing lanes altogether, protected signal faces and no right turns on reds. And there were a variety of feedback about things that people hope to see in the local road safety plan. And there was also a intelligent transportation systems update, which was about some basically traffic signal timing stuff, more coordinated traffic signal timing. Yeah. I was going to provide generally positive feedback to staff about the California Street bike lane, since I don't think we've had any formal item on it, but I like to give positive feedback when we can. And I would also want to acknowledge that I do know there was at least one member of the public who mentioned that this meeting conflicted with the back to school night. I don't know that we know like when back to school nights will be in the future, but I'm going to set myself a reminder for like December or January to check if we know what the calendar looks like for the next back to school night, and to see if we want to adjust anything, but I don't know that we will, since I don't, sometimes the logistics for these are a pain. But I did want to acknowledge it because I do like it when parents care about feedback, so.
Okay, thank you, James. Any other committee comments? Okay, so I think we're moving on to item 8, date and time for next meeting. I believe we are canceling September still. So that brings us back to a normal October meeting, the last Wednesday of October. Forgetting the date.
October 29th.
29th, okay.
Not Halloween. Good.
You can come in your costume.
You can come in your costume if you wish.
As a BPAC member.
Fine. So October 29th, Wednesday at 6:30, conference room likely here, but to be determined.
Sitting here.
Okay, our calendar item. Any other comments? It says calendar for item number 9.
That's just the upcoming
Oh,
ones we've got
yeah, that's
scheduled.
more penny events.
The next 3.
Oh, okay, just
December, January.
follow on. Okay, so I think we're ready to adjourn. Calling for adjournment at 9:20 p.m.